Have you ever wondered why some choices feel like they've already been made for us, written in the quiet spaces between heartbeats, in the way someone looks at you when they think you're not watching, in the pause before a confession that might change everything? They say time is linear, but love has a way of bending it, pulling us backward into memories we thought we'd outgrown, while dragging us forward into futures we're terrified to claim. What happens when the person who saved you in childhood asks you to walk away, and the person who never learned how to hold anyone begs you to stay? What happens when loyalty and truth stand on opposite sides of the same choice, and your heart is caught somewhere in between, breaking slowly in both directions? This is a story about that kind of love, the kind that doesn't give you easy answers, the kind that asks you to become someone new just to survive it. It's a story about three people trapped in a tower during a winter storm, with nowhere to hide from the truth and no way to run from what they feel. Before we begin, I want to know, where are you right now, listening to this story unfold? Comment below which city and country you're watching from. Are you somewhere cold like Seoul tonight, or somewhere warm where winter never comes? Because no matter where you are, I think you'll recognize this feeling, the weight of a choice that shouldn't have to be made, and the ache of loving two people who could never both be yours. So let me take you there, to Seoul, to a glass tower under siege, to three hearts on the edge of breaking. Seoul in 2025 still doesn't sleep. The Han River reflects neon and starlight in equal measure. The subway hums beneath your feet at 3 in the morning, and somewhere between the traditional Hanok villages and the chrome skyscrapers, you can still find people searching for something timeless. This is where Hana grew up, not in the glow of luxury, but in the small warmth of a family-run bookstore in Hongdae, where her mother brewed tea for customers and her father repaired old covers with careful hands. She was ordinary in the most beautiful way, the kind of girl who noticed when the seasons changed, who wrote poetry in the margins of receipts, who believed that kindness was not weakness, but a form of courage. She never imagined she'd work at DeLuna Group. She applied on a whim, needing the salary, expecting nothing, but they called her back, and suddenly, at 23, she was stepping into a world of glass elevators and silent hallways, where people moved like chess pieces and every smile had a price. Jiwoon didn't smile. He was 32, and he'd learned long ago that emotion was a liability. In a world built on contracts and control, CEO of DeLuna Group, heir to an empire his father had built with ruthless precision, Jiwoon carried the weight of legacy like a scar across his back. Silent, permanent, and impossible to remove. He was beautiful in the way. Winter mornings are beautiful, elegant, distant, untouchable. But Hana would learn, slowly, that loneliness has a way of leaking through even the most carefully constructed walls. And then there was Minhyo, 25, with a laugh that still reminded Hana of summer. Evenings when they were kids, running through street markets and stealing sweet rice cakes when no one was looking. He'd been gone for 2 years, studying abroad, he said. But when he came back, something had changed. His smile was still warm, but his eyes held secrets. He worked quietly now, away from the noise, in rooms where data moved faster than truth, and he watched Hana step into DeLuna's world with something between pride and terror, knowing what she didn't, that the company she admired was built on lies, and that loving her meant choosing between protecting her and exposing everything. The first time Hana saw Jiwoon up close, she forgot how to breathe. It was her 3rd day at DeLuna, and she'd been summoned to the executive floor, place most assistants avoided, where silence felt heavy and every surface gleamed like ice. She knocked twice, heard nothing, and entered anyway. He was standing by the window, backlit by the Seoul skyline, his figure sharp against the glass. He didn't turn when she entered. "You're late," he said, his voice low and even, the kind of tone that made you feel like you'd disappointed him even if you hadn't. "I'm sorry," Hana said. Though she wasn't late, she was exactly on time. "The report you requested is ready." She placed the folder on his desk, careful not to let her hands shake. He turned then, and for a moment, their eyes met. His were dark, unreadable, the kind of eyes that looked at you as if measuring your worth in seconds. "Leave it," he said, and she did. But as she walked toward the door, she heard him speak again, quieter this time. "Thank you." It was so small, so unexpected, that she almost didn't believe she'd heard it. Over the following weeks, she learned the rhythm of his world. Jiwoon was exacting, distant, impossible to read, but never cruel. He noticed when she brought him tea instead of coffee, when she stayed stayed late to finish something even though he hadn't asked. He didn't thank her again, but sometimes when she turned to leave, she could feel his gaze linger just a second too long, and then Minhyo reappeared. Hana! His voice cut through the noise of the street market where she'd stopped after work, and when she turned, her heart did that traitorous thing it always did when she saw him. It leapt, stumbled, and settled into something warm and familiar. Minhyo! She ran to him, not caring who watched. He hugged her the way he always had, easy, comfortable, like coming home. When did you get back? Last week, he said, grinning. I was going to call, but I wanted to surprise you. They walked together through Myeongdong, past vendors selling tteokbokki and tourists, taking selfies beneath glowing signs. He asked about her new job, and she told him everything: the glass tower, the endless meetings, the CEO who never smiled but sometimes said thank you, like it cost him something. Minhyo listened, his expression careful. Be careful there, he said finally. DeLuna isn't what it looks like. What do you mean? Just be careful. He didn't explain, and Hana didn't push. But later, lying in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that Minhyo knew. Something she didn't. The cyberattack came on a Friday night. Hana was still at the office, organizing files in the 40th floor executive wing when the lights flickered once, twice, then died. Emergency generators kicked in, bathing the hallways in cold blue light. Her phone buzzed. A company-wide alert. Security breach. All exits sealed. Lockdown protocol in effect. Do not leave the building. Her hands went cold. She ran toward Jiwoon's office, her heels echoing in the empty corridor. The door was open. He was standing in the center of the room, phone pressed to his ear, his expression tight with something between anger and fear. How long? He was saying. 48 hours. Minimum. Maybe more. He hung up, then noticed her in the doorway. Miss Han, he said, you should have left hours ago. I was working. What's happening? Someone breached our network. Until the system is secure, no one goes in or out. Hana's throat tightened. But there's nothing we can do. His voice was steady, but she could see the tension in his jaw, the way his hands gripped the edge of his desk. The residential floors are still operational. You'll stay there until this is over. Residential floors? For executives who work late. There are rooms, kitchens. You'll be safe. The word safe felt strange in his mouth, like he wasn't used to saying it. And then, from behind her, a familiar voice. Hana? She turned. Minhyo was walking down the hallway, his expression carefully neutral. He was wearing a visitor's badge. What are you doing here? She asked. I had a meeting, he said, consulting work, and now I'm stuck. Jiwoon's eyes narrowed. Who are you? Park Minhyo, he said, extending a hand that Jiwoon didn't take. A friend of Hana's. Oh, the air between them shifted, cold and careful, and Hana, standing between the two of them, felt something tighten in her chest, something that felt like the beginning of a storm. The residential wing felt like a different world, soft, lighting, warm wood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the frozen city. There were 3 units available, and Jiwoon assigned them with clipped efficiency. Miss Han, you take the unit on the left. Mr. Park, the one on the right. I'll take the center. Minhyo raised an eyebrow. How democratic. Jiwoon didn't respond. He turned and disappeared into his unit, the door closing with a quiet click. Hana stood in the hallway, suddenly aware of how small the space felt. Minhyo touched her shoulder gently. You okay? I think so, she said. This is just strange. Yeah, he hesitated, then said, try to get some rest. I'll be right here if you need. Me, she nodded, grateful, and slipped into her assigned room. It was minimalist, elegant. A bed, a desk, a window. She changed into the spare clothes left in the closet, then sat on the edge of the bed, staring out at Seoul's glittering skyline. Somewhere out there, the world was moving. In here, time felt suspended. The first night passed in restless silence, but by the second day, the tower felt smaller, the power flickered intermittently, and the heating system struggled against the winter, cold seeping through the glass. Hana found herself in the communal kitchen that evening, searching for tea. The space was dimly lit, quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. She was reaching for a mug when she heard footsteps behind her. You're awake, Jiwoon's voice. She turned. He was standing in the doorway, dressed in a simple black sweater and slacks. The first time she'd seen him without a suit. He looked younger, somehow, less guarded. I couldn't sleep, she said. Neither could I. He moved past her, pulling open a cabinet and retrieving 2 mugs without asking if she wanted company. He filled them both with hot water, dropped tea bags inside, and handed her one. They stood in silence for a moment, the steam rising between them. Are you afraid? He asked suddenly. Of what? Of being trapped here, of the situation. Hana considered. A little, but mostly am just waiting. For what? For it to be over. For things to go back to normal. Jiwoon's expression shifted, something unreadable crossing his face. What if normal isn't enough anymore? Before she could respond, Minhyo appeared in the doorway. Couldn't sleep. Either, he said lightly, though his eyes moved between them with careful attention. Apparently not, Jiwoon said. The three of them stood there, the silence stretching thin and fragile. Minhyo poured himself tea, leaning against the counter. So, he said, how long have you two worked together? A few weeks, Hana said. Feels longer though. I imagine it does, Minhyo said. Working for someone like Mr. Kwon. Jiwoon's jaw tightened. Someone like me? Powerful. Untouchable. Minhyo's tone was casual, but there was an edge beneath it. Must be isolating. You don't know anything about me, Jiwoon said quietly. I know more than you think. The air turned cold. Hana stepped between them, instinctively. Let's not do this, she said. We're all stuck here. We should try to... Try to what? Jiwoon cut in, his voice sharper now. Pretend everything is fine? I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? He was looking at her now, really looking, and there was something raw in his eyes. Something she'd never seen before. I'm saying we're all... scared, she said softly, and being cruel to each other won't help. The silence that followed felt like a held breath. Then Jiwoon set down his mug, his movements careful, controlled. You're right, he said. I apologize. He left without another word. Minhyo watched him go, then turned to Hana. You defend him. He's not a bad person. Are you sure? Minhyo's voice was gentle, but serious. Because I'm not. The third day, the heating failed completely. They gathered in the central lounge, huddled under blankets while the building's maintenance team worked remotely to restore power. Hana sat between them, hyper-aware of the space each man occupied. The way Jiwoon's silence felt different from Minhyo's. Warmth. Tell me something, Jiwoon said suddenly, breaking the quiet. He was looking at Hana. When did you decide to apply to DeLuna? I needed a job, she said honestly, but also I wanted to prove something to myself, that I could exist in a world that felt bigger than mine. And now? Now I'm not sure what I'm proving anymore. Jiwoon's gaze softened. You don't have to prove anything. You're already... He stopped himself, as if realizing he'd said too much. Minhyo watched this exchange, his expression carefully neutral, but Hana saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands gripped the edge of the blanket. Later, when Jiwoon stepped away to take a call, Minhyo moved closer to her. Hana, he said quietly, I need to tell you something. What? This company, DeLuna, it's not what you think. What do you mean? He hesitated, as if weighing his words. I can't explain everything right now, but promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't get too close to him. To Jiwoon? Yes. There was something desperate in his voice, something that made her heart ache. Why? Because I care about you, and I don't want to see you hurt. Before she could respond, the lights came back on, flooding the room with brightness, and the moment broke, scattering like glass. The discovery happened on the fourth night. Hana couldn't sleep. The building felt too quiet, the air too still. She wandered through the residential wing, restless, and found herself near Minhyo's unit. The door was slightly ajar. She knocked softly. No answer. She pushed it open, intending to leave a note, but stopped when she saw his laptop open on the desk, the screen glowing in the darkness. She shouldn't have looked. She knew that, but something pulled her forward. Curiosity, instinct, the need to understand why he'd been acting so strangely. The screen showed encrypted files, strings of code, and then a folder labeled DeLuna Investigation. Her blood went cold. She clicked. Inside were documents, financial records, witness testimonies, surveillance photos, and at the center of it all, a name, Kwon Tae-jun, Jiwoon's father. The charges were extensive. Embezzlement, money laundering, bribery of government officials. The evidence was damning, meticulous, irrefutable, and Minhyo had compiled all of it. Hana, his voice came from the doorway, quiet and resigned. She turned, her hands shaking. What is this? It's my job, he said. You're investigating DeLuna. I'm a data analyst for the Financial Crimes Unit. I've been building this case for 2 years. Her mind reeled. You never told me. I couldn't. It's classified, and I knew. He stepped closer, his expression pained. I knew if you found out, it would destroy you. Why? Because you care about him. It wasn't a question. Minhyo said it, like a fact, like something he'd accepted long ago. You care about Jiwoon, and this is going to ruin him. He didn't do anything wrong, Hana said, her voice breaking. His father did this, not him, but he'll be implicated. The company will collapse. And you, Minhyo reached for her hand. You need to leave before that happens. Testify with me, help me finish this, and then we'll go somewhere. Safe, together, like we always talked about. You want me to betray him. I want you to choose the truth. Tears blurred her vision. And if the truth destroys him, then that's not your fault. But it felt like her fault. It felt like every choice she made was tearing someone apart. She pulled away from Minhyo, stumbling backward. I need to think. Hana, just give me time. She ran down the hallway, past the darkened offices, until she found herself standing outside Jiwoon's unit. She knocked, harder than she intended. The door opened. Jiwoon stood there, his expression shifting from surprise to concern when he saw her face. What happened? She pushed past him into the room, pacing, unable to stand still. Tell me about your father. His entire body went rigid. Why? Just tell me, please. He was silent for a long moment, then he said, My father built DeLuna from nothing. He was brilliant, ruthless, everything a CEO should be. But he was also... stopped, his jaw tight. He was also a criminal. Jiwoon closed his eyes. How did you... Minhyo, he's been investigating DeLuna. He has evidence. He wants me to testify. Jiwoon's face drained of color. He sank onto the edge of the bed, his hands gripping his knees. I see. Did you know? Hana asked, her voice barely a whisper. About what your father did? Not at first, but I found out 6 months ago. I've been trying to fix it, quietly, to make restitution without destroying the company or the people who depend on it. He looked up at her, and for the first time, she saw him completely unguarded, terrified, exhausted, human. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to ask you to stay in a place built on lies. And now Minhyo wants me to leave. To help him expose everything. Then you should go, Jiwoon said. His voice was steady, but his eyes weren't. You should leave. Hana, get away from this mess. From me. Is that what you want? It's what's right. That's not what I asked. The silence stretched between them, heavy and aching. Then Jiwoon spoke, so quietly she almost didn't hear. No, it's not what I want. He stood, crossing the space between them in 2 steps. I want you to stay. Not because it's right, not because it protects me, but because his voice cracked. Because since you walked into my office, something in me woke up. Something I thought I'd buried years ago. And I know I have no right to ask you to stay. I know I'm selfish and broken and everything you deserve to run from. But God help me. Hana, I can't lose you. Her breath caught. Jiwoon, I'm not asking you to choose me, he said. I'm just asking you to know that you matter, that you changed something in me I didn't think could change anymore. Tears spilled down her cheeks. This isn't fair. I know. I don't know what to do. Then don't decide tonight, he said. Just stay here with me until you know. She should have left, should have gone back to her room, put distance between them. But instead, she stayed. They sat together on the floor, backs against the bed, shoulders touching. And for the first time since the lockdown began, the silence between them felt less like a wall and more like a bridge. Morning came too quickly. Hana woke on Jiwoon's floor, a blanket draped over her shoulders that she didn't remember pulling over herself. He was gone, probably already dealing with the aftermath of the breach. She found Minhyo in the kitchen, making coffee. He looked tired, defeated. Did you think about it? He asked without preamble. Yes, and? Hana sat across from him, her hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't filled yet. I'm not going to run, Minhyo. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen, or hide from the truth. He exhaled in relief. Good. Then, but I'm not going to abandon him either. Minhyo's expression hardened. Hana, let me finish. She looked at him directly, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. You're right. What his father did was wrong, and it needs to be exposed. But Jiwoon isn't his father. He's been trying to fix this, and if I can help him do that the right way, without destroying innocent people, then that's what I'm gonna do. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. She reached across the table, touching his hand gently. You've always protected me, Minhyo, since we were kids, and I love you for that. But I'm not a child anymore. I need to protect myself now, and I need to decide what kind of person I want to be. His eyes glistened. I wanted to save you from this. I know, but maybe I don't need saving. Maybe I need to save myself. He pulled his hand away, standing abruptly. Then I can't stay. If you won't help me, I have to move forward with the investigation alone. I know. And when this is over, when everything comes out, you might hate me. I could never hate you, Hana said, her voice breaking. But I can't be who you need me to be. Minhyo looked at her for a long moment, memorizing her face, it seemed. Then he nodded once, grabbed his jacket, and walked toward the door. Goodbye, Hana. Minhyo. But he was already gone. She sat alone, in the kitchen, tears falling silently into her empty mug, and wondered if doing the right thing was supposed to hurt this much. Over the following weeks, the lockdown ended. The cyber attack was traced to an external source, corporate espionage, unrelated to Minhyo's investigation. but the damage was done. Minhyo submitted his evidence to the authorities. The news broke 3 days later. Former DeLuna CEO implicated in financial crimes. The media swarmed. Protesters gathered outside the building. Shareholders demanded answers. And through it all, Jiwoon remained calm, controlled, unflinching. He called a press conference. Hana watched from the back of the room as he stood at the podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. "I am aware of the allegations against my father," Jiwoon said, his voice steady. "And after conducting an internal investigation, I can confirm that they are true." The room erupted. He waited for silence. "I have cooperated fully with authorities and provided all necessary documentation. My father will face trial, as he should. DeLuna Group was built on his vision, but it will not be defined by his crimes. Effective. Immediately, I am implementing a full corporate restructuring. We will make restitution to those harmed by my father's actions. We will rebuild this company with integrity, transparency, and accountability." He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd until they found Hana. "And I will not run from the consequences of his choices, but I will not let them destroy the lives of the people who depend on DeLuna for their livelihoods. We will do better. I will do better." The questions came like a flood, but Hana barely heard them. She was watching Jiwoon's face, the exhaustion hidden beneath composure, the loneliness he wore like armor, and she knew, with absolute certainty, that she'd made the right choice. That night, she found him alone in his office. The building was empty, silent except for the distant hum of traffic below. "You should go home," he said without looking up from his desk. "So should you. I have work to do." Jiwoon, he finally looked at her. "I don't have anything to offer you right now, Hana. The company is in chaos. My father is going to prison. My reputation is— I don't care about any of that." "You should, but I don't." She crossed the room, standing in front of his desk. "I care that you told the truth. I care that you chose to rebuild instead of hide, and I care about you." His expression cracked. "Why?" "Because you let me see you, the real you. Not the CEO, not the heir, just you." He stood slowly, moving around the desk until he was close enough to touch. "I still don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "How to be close to someone. How to trust it won't disappear. Then we'll learn together." He reached for her hand, his fingers trembling slightly. "I don't deserve you." "Maybe not," she said, smiling through tears. "But you're stuck with me anyway." And then, finally, he pulled her close and held on like she was the only solid thing in a world that had crumbled around him. 6 months passed. DeLuna Group restructured under Jiwoon's leadership. The company survived. Smaller, humbler, but honest. Hana worked beside him, not as his assistant anymore, but as his partner in rebuilding what his father had broken. They testified together. They faced the media together. They endured the scrutiny and the judgment and the slow, painful process of earning back trust. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, they fell completely, irrevocably in love. It wasn't dramatic. There was no grand confession, no cinematic kiss in the rain. It was quiet, stolen, moments in empty offices, shared meals at midnight, the way he started leaving tea on her desk every morning without being asked. It was the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, the way he learned to say, "I need you," instead of "I need help." It was ordinary and profound all at once. Minhyo didn't come back. Hana heard through mutual friends that he'd transferred to a different department, working on new cases in a different city. She wrote him letters she never sent, full of apologies and gratitude and the truth that she would always love him, just not in the way he'd needed. One spring evening, Jiwoon took her to a small hanok in Bukchon, away from the city's noise. Cherry blossoms drifted past, the windows like snow. "I have something to ask you," he said. His hands were shaking. She'd learned to recognize that now, the tiny cracks in his composure. "Okay," she said, smiling. He knelt. The ring was simple, elegant, a single stone that caught the light like a promise. "I'm still learning how to be good at this," he said, "at being open, at letting someone in. But you make me want to try. Every day, you make me want to be better than I was. And I know the world thinks I'm not enough for you, that you deserve someone easier, someone whole. But if you'll have me at broken pieces and all, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it." Hana knelt with him, taking his face in her hands. "Yes," she said. 1,000 times yes. They married in autumn, in a small ceremony overlooking the Han River. No press, no spectacle, just close friends, soft music, and vows spoken like prayers. Hana wore a simple hanbok in pale blue. Jiwoon couldn't stop crying, and neither could she. When they exchanged rings, she thought of Minhyo, of the boy who'd loved her first, who'd tried to save her in the only way he knew how. She hoped he'd found peace. She hoped he understood. And as the sun sunset over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Jiwoon kissed her gently and whispered, "Thank you for staying." "Thank you for asking," she whispered back. Because in the end, love wasn't about choosing the person who needed you most, or the person who made sense, or even the person who'd known you longest. It was about choosing the person who made you brave enough to become someone new, someone stronger, kinder, more honest than you'd ever been before. It was about finding someone who saw your flaws and your fears and loved you not despite them, but through them. And it was about building something, real in the ruins of what came before, one honest moment at a time. They say that the best love stories don't have neat endings. They have beginnings disguised as conclusions, closure that feels like opening doors. Hana and Jiwoon's story didn't fix everything. The world still doubted them sometimes. The past still cast shadows, but they faced it together, not perfectly, but honestly. And isn't that what love really is? Not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of someone willing to face it with you, to hold your hand through the storm and remind you that you're not alone. Seoul still doesn't sleep. The lights still glow against the night sky, and somewhere in that city, people are still making impossible choices between past and future, between what they need and what they want. But now, in a small apartment overlooking the river, Hana and Jiwoon have built something that feels like home. They drink tea in the mornings. They argue about small things. They hold each other when the weight of the day becomes too much. And every evening, when the sun sets, Jiwoon pulls her close and says the same thing he said on their wedding day: "Thank you for staying." And she always answers, "There's nowhere else I'd rather be," because that's the truth. Not dramatic, not poetic, just real. And sometimes real is the most beautiful kind of love there is. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep creating stories that stay with your soul.